Hi, I'm Steve James, and on this weekend's 30 Minutes, it's part 2 of our conversation with UT Martin head football coach Jason Simpson.
Tell me about Mississippi growing up.
You know, my parents still live in Hattiesburg. South Mississippi is where I'm from, a small town like Ellisville. Very similar to Martin. Okay, probably actually smaller than Martin. You know, you had a Ward's and a Pizza Hut growing up, and a movie and a movie store, not a movie theater, right? But a movie. You rent the VCR tapes. And, you know, people on Friday night came to the games just like they do, you know, Westview. You know, so I've obviously got fond memories of it. You know, it's a town where my parents and went to high school there, and my aunts and uncles and stuff. So, you know, I haven't been back in a long time. You know, I actually almost took the head high school job there back in like 2000, actually.
Would that have been a good idea?
Well, you know what? It just says God works in mysterious ways. They actually didn't offer. They brought me in to interview. I was out in Texas coaching, and Julie and I were ready to get back closer to family. You know, we were looking at it to where, okay, at least we'd be closer to my family, right? Because they still live there, and hers lived in Nashville. We were out in San Marcos, Texas, and they brought me back in there, brought me to interview, and didn't offer me the job. Okay, well, a month later, I was offered the offense coordinator job at Chattanooga.
By the way, were your feelings hurt when they did?
Yeah, they were hurt, you know, because, you know, here I was. We played for a couple state championships.
Were you the quarterback?
Yeah, I was. And
so you made the state championship?
Made and lost, okay, but 2 semifinals and 1 final.
Mm-hmm.
And we were fortunate, had a good team. But for those 3 or 4 years there. But, and it
so
was.
You were really
No, we were going to take it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just felt like maybe that was the path, right? Going to be a dad, start a family.
Is it hard to come back, you think?
Well, I was looking forward to it, but in that, I mean, God's just.
And Julie was from where?
She was from Nashville. Mm-hmm. She was from Nashville, but at least we were going to be around family. And they hired a guy who was a more experienced coach, and I think they fired him like game 2 of the season. And by then, right, I'm an offensive coordinator, and I remember they called me back and wanted me to take it the next year. But by then, you know, my college career was hopefully kind of taken off. And then 2 years later, I'm the head coach here at UT Martin. So obviously God didn't want me back in Ellisville.
I'm going to go back to one thing about your family. You said your mom and dad are still with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're both retired now.
Did they ever come up and spend the weekend with
you?
They
used to come a lot, and they would come to Graham's game on Friday night or Ty's game on Friday, and then see the Skyhawks play on Saturday.
Your daddy now, what, 75,
75,
80?
76, yeah. And so it's hard. You know, they don't make the drive as much anymore, and especially with technology. They can watch the Westview game, and they can watch the UTM game. And so I was thinking about that this week because Ty and I usually talk every day, but he's been at the it's been 2 days, and I talked to him this morning, but there was a day and a half or whatever that he was busy being in Green Bay and with his friends and at the draft and stuff. And I was thinking, you know, he's still single, right? So he doesn't have a girlfriend or anything, not dating anybody. And I was, you know, and his life, right, will eventually that will change. And just like, you know, mine's changed. And, you know, I talk to my parents more now than I did probably 10 years ago.
And you're an only child?
No, I have a sister as well.
We haven't heard about her.
Yeah, Carrie, my 6-year younger sister.
But you just told her age, 48.
Well, there you go. And she's a principal in
Ellsville.
Well, no, in the little town next. She lives in Hattiesburg. Actually, in the same little. My parents moved from Ellisville to Hattiesburg. But what I was thinking about was, you know, Ty's age now. There'll be a time to where, you know, he won't have time to talk to me every day, and that's just part of the. You know, growing up, because he'll have his own family, and he'll have his children that he's chasing around and stuff. So, and you know what? When that day comes, hopefully we've raised all of our children just like we all hope, right, to stand on their own 2 feet, and you know, and be an example to their children, living their life for the Lord, and that's I'll never look back and regret being in here for Martin, hopefully for a 30-year span of coaching, because we were able to be a part of that and be in our kids' lives.
Jason Simpson is our guest today on 30 Minutes. Coach, I want to twist a little bit here. You've got your football schedule out.
Mm-hmm. Tough schedule, man.
You keep winning these OVC titles and Sergeant York, and I got to tell you, usually after you win something, you leave and go on to the next thing because everybody's looking for you. You've had that opportunity to, I know you've been asked come talk and interview for other opportunities, but you stay here. And I think it's all because of family.
Mm-hmm.
And then not just talking about your family. I think we're talking about the UT Martin family, the Westview family, Weakley County family, West Tennessee family. Everybody knows your family. You don't know them, but they all know you. And here you are getting ready to start your 20th season as the football coach here at the University of Tennessee at Martin.
I was sharing this with one of our players recently, and it was, a little bit homesick, a long way from home. And the story I shared with him was this: if you would probably ask me 15 years ago, if you'd said, Jason, where are you from? Right? I would have said Ellisville, Mississippi, right? Because that's where I'd spent stayed there till I was 20, and then Southern Miss wasn't too far away, right? So that's what I knew, and then I had different stops along the way. But my point to him was that, I don't know where he's going to end up, when he graduates and moves on to the next part of his life, but it may not be back in his hometown, whatever God's plan for him is and job opportunities and stuff. But now that I've been here, 20 years, right, 15 years ago or so, you'd have said, where are you from? If somebody would ask me that, right, I don't just live in Martin, Tennessee. I'm from Martin, Tennessee. And so I take a lot of satisfaction in that. I have different buddies in this profession, that for 1 year they may jump up and, triple their salary in their stadiums. You watch them on CBS, game of the week and stuff. And then 2 years later, they make changes, and that's the thing about this profession. You don't keep ascending. Okay. You would think once you get to a certain stop, right, you keep moving. Doesn't work like that. And guys fall back down, the salaries change and stuff. Over the years, that just hadn't appealed to me, and to be on somebody else's schedule. Today, if you don't have an appointment, right, you've got something family-wise, you can go take care of it. There may be some boss that doesn't let you do that. So all those things, that's feel very blessed to be able to do those things.
How many players have you had to go to the NFL?
Ooh, good question. I don't know if
Can we just start with Dresser Wynn?
How about that? He's starting tonight. Memphis Showboats.
Yeah.
Excited about it. There was pictures on our wall from the 23 season, okay, in the Bob Carroll building. And from the 2023 season, on active rosters that year, there was 4 NFL players and 2 Canadian League players. Just from that year, that they were getting contracts and paycheck. So that was kind of neat. But I would say over these 20 years, there's probably been at least 40 that have signed contracts. Now, sometimes that's a weekend. Derek Carr I'm counting him as one of those players. Okay. He had a short cup of coffee, with the New York Giants. Okay. But there's only been maybe 8 or less that actually stayed the whole season, because it's very difficult to make a 53-man roster in the NFL.
It just dawned on me. You've never coached your own kids.
No, not in college, right? Or high school. Obviously did in rec league baseball and different things.
You didn't do it in junior high. I mean, there were coaches. I mean, you've really never coached any of your own children professionally, we'll call it.
Right. Well, probably Monday through Friday I did, or Monday through Thursday I did when they got home. But no, I've enjoyed every second of that. Graham brings his tape home, can pull it up on the television and we watch it.
But I've got to say this to you. It is so cool to be able to be a father, to watch. But it must be really tough to be a coach and see that you.
It is. No, it is. And I tell you,
And I'm told you're pretty loud in the stands, Coach.
Not as much anymore. No. And that's the difference between Ty and Graham's recruitment is we realize now, once Graham or Ty got to be around 13, realized football was his path. Okay. Even though he had played a lot of baseball up to that point, and still was a good high school baseball player and could have played in college. But that wasn't his passion, and it's hard to do both, okay? And so things that I know now, Paul, of Graham's age are, that rivals camp's not that important. We don't have to drive so-and-so for him to be there for that. We don't have to do travel baseball. If he's not going to pursue it in college, right, then we're playing high school and enjoying it, I was laughing. We got in the car last night. Westview lost. It was a good game against was it JCS, and lost 6-3. It's a good game. Graham had a couple opportunities, could have got a hit or so and maybe helped it. But anyway, faced a good team. Maybe with Ty, that would have been, a 30-minute discussion on the way back with Graham and I, because, hey, he enjoyed it. He competed. A couple of things he may can do better. He saw off the family video. We talked about it for about 3 minutes and then, moved on. So I think as you get older and as a dad, you go through those kind of things one time. You kind of know what's important. And Ty was always good. He didn't let it affect our relationship. Graham at times can be a little bit I don't pound on him as much as maybe I did Ty, because there's no need to.
We're in that conversation for just a moment about how many young men have gone on to the NFL. I'd be more interested to know instead of that, even though I know you're very proud of every one of them, and not just for being in the NFL, because of the careers that they've taken forward, and of course many of them become assistant coaches or maybe coaches under you through the years. But here's my question, and that is pretty simple on this. So do you have your football assistant coaches already ready to come back this fall? Or you may be needing somebody right now.
No, we're actually, believe it or not, somebody asked me that a couple of days ago. Believe it or not, we're actually, at full staff. And I can't remember the time to this point, Paul, that we were, this is the same staff for the full-time guys that we had, during, let's see. No, I did lose a guy, but I promoted. The defensive staff last year was Brandon Butcher, and he's the only one up to this point of the full-time guys. Him and his wife, Becca, he was here with us 4 years. We won 4 conference championships, and 2 of his as the defensive coordinator. And he's at UTEP now, which we play this year. And then Jerry Partridge moved into that defensive coordinator role. He was on the staff. And Rudy Griffin is the D-line coach. He was here with us this past year, him and his wife, Kimmy. I moved Antonio Clifton back to the defensive side of the ball. He was coaching running backs this past year. He played for us. So that's why there was no outside new coaches, because I moved a guy from one staff to another and promoted a graduate assistant. T.J. Jefferson, who played for us, is also on the staff again for another year at the line, moving to the linebacker position. On offense, Kevin Bannon played for us here. Him and his wife Megan and their 3 children. Kevin's been with me now, I think, almost 13 seasons, and does a fantastic job. Danny is the quarterback coach. Nick Cochran just had a baby yesterday. All right, his first little baby girl, him and his wife. He was an analyst at Alabama. That's how I met him down on that staff. So he's going into year 2. Javon Craig's going into year 3, I believe, with us now, coaching tight ends as well. And Chris Bell been with me now, I don't know, almost 10 years, I think, as running our football operations.
In this world, we have this NIL stuff, and we've got lots of money that's changing hands. Have you had to deal with it yet? I know that
Well, we deal with it from a standpoint when we lose players, they get an opportunity to get NIL. The university has a collective set up. Up to this point, as a football program, we have not used it. And not that I don't think our players deserve it. It's just that, if they're going to get an opportunity to make it, they're going to take that opportunity. We lost 5 D linemen this year, okay, good players that went to Wisconsin, Arizona, Memphis, Northern Illinois, and East Carolina. So either Power 4 or a group of 5, and with that comes a salary. So, a couple $1,000s here at UT Martin's not going to keep them here, okay? We're still not, Kurt McGuffin's done a great job, and it's a pleasure working with him, and has helped this program grow. So he and I are working on, we're trying to still get our scholarship up to the maximum NCAA limit that we can get. So I want to get that done before move on to NIL. Okay. Because that money is only 1 year, right? And then you got to go and raise it again the next year. Right now, today, as we speak, it's not tax deductible. So why would you want to give it? Right. So, I just don't think right now it's sustainable for us. But SEMO does it. I talked to Coach Tuke the other day, and they have a large collective. And he told me one day, he said, "You'll never beat me on another player. If we're recruiting the same player, I'm going to have money. I'm going to have money for them." But, there's other things that I want to do first before we get to that to sustain the program, not just 1 year at a time. We're getting a new weight room. We're refurbishing the second floor of the old gym.
Well, it's interesting you even brought that because that was my next question. What does the university football program need to have now?
That's supposed to be done in July, and even though it's not a new facility, to us it'll be new. The whole top floor gets refurbished, and so I'm excited about that. No, you would love to have some type of indoor that all the sports could use. But that's an expensive item, and it's hard to, and it gets scary too. I mean, from an administrative standpoint, if those FBS games ever end, those guarantee games, like we got 3 this year. We're the only FCS team in the United States, plays college Division I football, FCS, that plays 3 FBS opponents next year.
Who are they?
They're Oklahoma State, UTEP, and Missouri State. Now
that's next year.
That's 25.
That's what we're saying. Okay.
Yeah, and now Missouri State was FCS, and we have a return game with them. And then they, in the contract, it said if either one of us ever converted to FBS, there was a payment that had to be paid out because they play with 85 full scholarships. Okay, so they joined Conference USA, so they do owe us, some guarantee this year. So that's, I don't know, you combine that's probably close to $1 million, those 3 games. But, if you saw the budget of what it costs to travel, the buses.
Let's just give you what do you charge? What are you charged? $6,000 a bus, or? It
just obviously depends on the distance, we're going. Yeah. But compared to 20 years ago, what we spent, it's off the charts. And now and there's some games that are more than 12 hours that, we have to budget to fly and charter, because that's, you can't ask a student athlete to be on a bus 14 hours, play, and then come back, and then now you got to go to class on Monday. And talking about taking 100 guys, that's not, that's certainly a competitive disadvantage if you ask a student athlete to do that. So it does cost more, and there's not, television contracts. And I am appreciative to our fans and to our administration to want to put a quality program on the field, but it strains us, and our administration does a good job. Kurt does of helping us grow on a yearly basis.
Let me just ask you to tell me how you feel about this. Murray State.
Mm-hmm.
You both are recruiting for the same
mm-hmm.
players most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not Southeast Missouri or whoever
right.
it happens to be. When will we see Murray back on a schedule?
I wish we could get him back on the schedule. I was talking to one of their coaches this week. He had called me about
Who's the head coach there? Right. If you know it, and if you don't, I don't.
I can see his face right now.
I got it. Go ahead.
But anyway, I'm sorry. He was at Jacksonville State in South Carolina. But Nico Yanko, their athletic director, played here for a year or so with Griffin, and then a half year for me. So, no, we'd love to get them back on the schedule. I'd love to get Austin Peay back on the schedule. The conference realignment or them choosing to leave, I hate that because now it's longer bus trips for everybody. So maybe we can get them back on the league. They're in Missouri Valley now, Murray is, and, you get what you ask for with those Dakota programs. They're outstanding.
I haven't asked you one thing about one of the most important people that have ever been on our campus.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Bob Carroll.
Oh man, I saw him the other day. He came out to practice, and he looked great. He looked great. I've told you this before. When he comes during the season, at least one day a week, he'll come and be at the first 5 or 10 minutes of practice. When I see him, I stop what I'm doing. I go over there and show my respect that I have. I've said this before. I may be the longest tenured head coach here at UT Martin. Going to my 20th season, but, Coach Bob Carroll is the father of UT Martin football, and I'll always revere that. And I love when he says he's such a great Southern gentleman. I'll introduce him to somebody, and I'll say, that building is named after, Coach Carroll. And, he always jokes and says, well, normally when they named, they either name something after somebody that's, rich or deceased, and I'm neither, and I just really appreciate him, and he's always there for me, whether it be advice or whether it be to vent to or talk about the program, and I just think the world of him.
The thing about Coach Carroll is pretty basic. Do what you're supposed to do, be on time, and give it your best.
Didn't play for him, okay, but here's one thing that I'm envious of him. I don't think they still do it now, but probably the first 10 or 12 years here when Randy Barnes worked for us. They would go, former players that played for Coach Carroll, and Coach Carroll would go on a golfing trip together. Hawk Ruth, Gary Doble, of course, Randy, and different people would go, and they would call me on one of their nights down there, and they were having dinner and get me kind of on FaceTime, and they would pass the phone around. I just appreciated the heck out of that because, it was a way to tie the past together, from those 67 Tangerine Bowl team. I don't know if Gary ever went with them or not, Gary Capers or not, but I always thought that was the neatest thing, that his players at their age would want to be around their head coach.
Those players are in their late 70s.
Different time and different.
And in case you don't know, some of those are in their 80s. And now he was really young when he came back after serving in the military, and of course grew up in Milan. A lot of people didn't know that until maybe we just talked about it. So.
Yeah, even when players, he'll bring a former player out there to that'll be coming through town to see him, and if he snaps his fingers right now, whether it be Gary or Randy Barnes or all, now they pop to attention. And I just think that's awesome. And part of me wishes I could have been around during that era and seen that and been a part of that. But I do appreciate the stories. I just hang on every word when they tell the different stories of, back in the day. And I appreciate them.
Do you think there's a signature player, either from your last 20 years or any other, that is everybody? That's he. You want to say, hey, that guy played at Lake County. You remember a fella down there who happens to end up being a general manager,
Jerry Reese. Of course, I still talk to Big Mac. That was here in the 80s.
Oh yeah, McNeil. Yeah.
I don't know if there's another player that loves this program more than Big Mac does. He keeps me connected to different decades of players, even that he didn't play with, okay, because they all remember him when he played here. So I do really appreciate Big Mac's friendship. I got to be friends with Kito Chu over the years, that kicked here, lives out in California now. When Julie and I went out there one time, he took us to lunch, and that was pretty neat. Of course, you're going to first think about the kids that have been maybe drafted, from here that I coached. Colton Dowell, still with the Titans. Montori Hughes, remember, was drafted for us in 2012. Then from a West Tennessee guys, Derek Carr, he had an outstanding career here. Dresser, playing for the Rams, and then tonight for the Showboats. There's 20 years now, and you got 100 different players in that program every year. That's a lot of, not 100 different every year, but been cross paths with a lot of people. Appreciate them all.
I'll give you a moment. There may be someone that wants to make a contribution to the UT Martin football program. What is it you need right now, besides the more players to come in and choose from and all those?
I would love to, like I said, to increase that scholarship budget, okay, because, we've got some nice dorms on our campus that what we call the phases. I think they've even, the village, okay, they cost more than Browning and Ellington, okay? If a kid goes and visits Tennessee Tech or whatever, and their dorm situation is better than ours, and I've got to make sure that I've got the resources to put them in the phases, okay? So, no, I'd love to – somebody wants to contribute to our football scholarship budget. I think that would be great. But if there's one particular thing that Bart needs we need a new ice tub in the training room. Because all the kids use that, and I priced one the other day. That's probably about a $12,000 hot tub thing. So guess what? Now the in helmet earpiece is going to effect, where you can call it like the NFL into the quarterback's ear, or the defense coordinator can call it into the linebacker ear. And guess what? A quality one of those, $40,000 a year. Okay, so and those aren't things that you count on in your budget, on a yearly basis. Now, it's not yearly, okay, but the first time you purchase it is.
Before we close our time here today with Coach Jason Simpson, there's one person that has come onto our campus who has taken the role of being our new chancellor here at the University of Tennessee at Martin. It's always nice to say good things about the big boss, but in reality, he seems to like football pretty well, too.
You know, I knew Yancey back when we were both at Chattanooga, right? And I was an assistant coach, and, you know, he was running admissions, and, you know, I used to have to go over there and you know, beg for, you know, can we get this guy in school? What do I need? What paperwork and stuff? So he was always easy to work with, and I enjoyed his enthusiasm and stuff. So it was exciting when he had this opportunity to, you know, to come back to Martin. I thought it was a great opportunity for us to, you know, to increase our enrollment. Okay. And as a head football coach, where you have probably, you know, 80%, you know, African-American players on your team, I've enjoyed the fact to be able to, you know, introduce our players to our African-American chancellor. You know, there's opportunities everywhere in the country, and, you know, you can aspire, you can do this. That's been awesome for our players. And so I appreciate him and his wife, and, you know, look forward to continuing to work with them.
You know, the chancellors have changed through the years. You've been through 4 or 5.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
trying to remember. Each has a different idea about athletics. What would you like administration to know about football?
And they all know this, you know, of course, Nick Dunnigan was awesome to work with from the standpoint of, you know, he had been here. He was just visible at everything and being around the program, and him and Phil Dane, you know, had a good relationship. So, you know, he saw the value of us having a successful program here at UT Martin. And then, you know, Keith Carver being able to, you know, he just had such a energetic, charismatic personality. You enjoyed being around him. You felt good being around him. He was awesome with recruits, you know, so a chancellor that will be a part of recruiting will come to Saturday mornings when parents are on campus and say, you know, we support our athletic programs. I'm the chancellor. I'm here this, you know, Saturday morning at 9 a.m. because your child is important to us. Boy, that was so beneficial as well, you know. So, you know, those are things that I do appreciate these different administrators being a part of. You know, they're pulled in so many different ways, right? Football program is just a small part of it. But, you know, I say all the time, you know, I tell my players, the university's not here for our football program. The football program is here for the university. So make sure when you go across this campus, you don't have an entitled, you know, demeanor about yourself, okay? You're here to provide entertainment and school spirit. That's what we're here for. And I take that very seriously, you know. And so, you know, that's my pitch to the freshmen when they come in and they ask me to come talk to that, you know, group during SOAR, is that, hey, on Saturday, we want to give you something to do. But I also believe, too, the more success we have and you know, when you're an alum, right, and you're at the water cooler on Monday morning, you see our score come across that ESPN ticker, it makes you feel good, okay? And, you know, and so maybe you feel good about the university and you give back. And maybe it doesn't just go to athletics or to football. It goes to the English department or the music department, because that's where your interest lies, okay? But I also think, right, you've heard this before too, right? What kind of music department does Duke have? I don't know. You don't know, right? But we know they're good in basketball, so we assume that their music department's pretty good. All right, so you know, we say this before that, you know, we want to be the front porch to the university. We want to carry it in a good light, and you know, in a positive way to represent it. Winning, okay, can do that if you do it in the right way. I feel like that's one of my biggest tasks for the university.
It's been really good to have a visit with you, Coach Simpson. We don't get a chance to see each other very often. We're always available on phone, and I love it when you are out exercising. You're able to do an interview while you get.
It rained on me this morning. I had the dog. Hey, and little David came by me in the neighborhood. He said, "You are one dedicated guy."
You're that guy. Jason Simpson, University of Tennessee at Martin football coach, and our next football game is coming up on
August 30th, maybe September 1st. We play on a Thursday night, and I'm trying to get on Saturday, get to Florida State, hopefully for Ty's first start. So that's the plan.
All righty. Good luck to you. That's our program today here with the University of Tennessee at Martin football coach, Jason Simpson. Paul Tinkle, pre-recorded here on 30 Minutes.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.